This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Winnipeg shelters are entering the new year bursting at the seams, struggling with capacity for animals. This, even though more animals than average were adopted from the Humane Society in 2024. And as the CBC's Mike Arsenault explains, the rising cost of caring for pets is forcing some owners to give them up.
Good job.
Every room inside the Winnipeg Humane Society has a dog or a cat waiting to be adopted by a Manitoba family. Carly Peters says the organization is at full capacity.
We have been at and over capacity for over a year. I don't think that's something that we're going to see change moving into 2025.
The Humane Society has close to 200 animals in shelter right now and another 175 in foster care. Even though there was a slight increase in adoptions last year, they're still struggling to find space for more animals. Peters says they're seeing more pet owners forced to surrender their furry companions because they couldn't afford to keep them.
Roughly about half of the cats and about 75% of the dogs that our owner surrenders are because the owner couldn't afford medical care.
The Winnipeg Pet Rescue Shelter is short on space too. It says the shelter is being flooded with dozens of animals every week, and people relinquishing their pets is becoming more common.
If you're having trouble paying your own bills, unfortunately, your pets are one of the first things that people look at trying to save costs on, and so they're calling to trying to have them relinquished.
Krista Richard says she'd like to see stricter bylaws in place for animal control, making sure that they're spayed and neutered.
Part of the problem is just the sheer volume of animals that all of the rescues are trying to help, and if that could be solved, then we would be able to help the folks that find themselves in a position to have to relinquish their animals because of financial reasons.
Peters says the Humane Society is focusing on their community support programs like food banks and other services so animals don't end up in the shelter to begin with.
They're more than a pet. They're a trusted companion. They're someone's support system. We don't want that bond to be broken, and so we'll do the best we can to ensure it stays that way.
Peters says the Humane Society is still in an intake freeze, and it's only taking sick or injured animals until they have more space for everyone else. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Animal advocates, meantime, say they were disturbed by the many cases involving animal cruelty in Winnipeg in 2024. You'll recall about the case that we told you just before the new year, but they're also encouraged by signs that authorities seem to be taking the cases more seriously. The CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more, and a warning, this story has some details that may be upsetting.
This bridge on Summit Road is where police say 6 cats were found dead over several weeks last month. Some of them left in a bag or lying underneath the bridge. A few had pet identifiers. Police say foul play was apparent in all of their deaths, and they were found by people who walk or spend time in the area. It's another upsetting incident for animal advocates like Caitlin Mitchell.
I can't recall a year where so many gruesome incidents involving companion animals have been brought to light in the city.
The latest case comes months after police said they were investigating reports of dead cats in Point Douglas. They haven't established whether the 2 cases are connected. The Point Douglas investigation remains with the Major Crimes Unit. Police made another animal cruelty case public in October when 40-year-old Chad Cabez and 55-year-old Irene Lima were arrested and charged with killing or injuring animals and causing unnecessary suffering to an animal. They were later also charged with bestiality, child pornography offenses, and for planning to torture a child. It's overwhelming for Krista Blehut, another animal advocate.
Animals are completely innocent in all this. They have no idea if who comes up to them wants to give them love or if they want to hurt them, and they always think the best of people.
But something encouraging for the advocates, the response from authorities to notify the public. Police got reports about the dead cats on Summit Road on December 8th, 28th, and 30th. They put out a media release December 31st.
The fact that we have the Major Crimes Unit involved as well, I think really shows that police in the city are taking this seriously.
Andrew Clark with the Winnipeg Humane Society agrees.
Because this brings it into the public eye.
Police are still looking for information about the dead cats on Summit Road and ask anyone who might know something to contact Major Crimes or Crime Stoppers. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Westdale Community Centre in Charleswood has been targeted with racist graffiti. This week, the doors and walls of the facility were sprayed with swastikas. The community centre's president says it is happening right across Charleswood.
All over that area. It's been quite frequent. And because of that, I actually went by to take a look this morning, and it looks like we've been tagged again by them on several doors, a couple walls, in some player boxes.
The city has already cleaned up some of the graffiti that was sprayed a few weeks ago. Both incidents have been reported to police. Well, as many Winnipeggers may be aware, policing uses up almost a quarter of the city's yearly budget. But when it comes to new hires, police are not the main priority this year. The CBC's Bartley Kivas has more on which city departments are getting the most new staff in 2025.
There's no question the Winnipeg Police Service costs the city more money than any other department. The city plans to spend almost $340 million on policing this year. That's 24% of the budget. But when it comes to new hires, the police are not top dogs. In 2025, the city plans to add 6 more police to the service. But Winnipeg Transit is getting 27 more full-time staff equivalents, mainly to expand service. Libraries are getting 12 more full-time staff, mainly to expand library hours. Even the city's forestry branch is getting 8 more people.
The city's put its money where its mouth is with regards to trees.
Christian Cassidy is executive director of Trees Winnipeg. He's happy the city's hiring more people to take care of trees on city land.
You can have tree pruning, tree removal, which everybody hates but is a necessary evil, and then tree replacement.
So yes, Winnipeg's hiring more people carrying chainsaws than toting pepper spray, batons, and guns.
I'm going to assume it's a little easier to get tree pruners than it is to get trained police officers.
Acting Mayor Janice Luke says the city budget's pretty clear about who's supposed to be hired this year.
It tells you where we're adding staff.
Money to hire more police, library staff, and forestry people, none of that is set in stone. City Council will be debating the budget over the next few weeks. A vote's coming at the end of the month. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Paramedics and firefighters in Winnipeg were off the job for more than 17,000 hours last year after suffering psychological injuries at work. To fill the gap, hundreds of shifts were covered with overtime. The United Firefighters of Winnipeg isn't surprised the numbers have risen sharply in recent years. Union President Tom Billis says years of inadequate staffing levels have drained the mental health of first responders.
Smaller complement means the members, they will always answer those alarms, yet they're getting burnt out. It is just having a mental and physical fatigue. The other members start taking overtime. They're not recuperating. They're not sleeping right. They're not spending the time off they should with their family. And the cycle goes on and on.
The city says it worked with the province to hire at least 24 new firefighters last year, but the union says staffing still needs to be adjusted to compensate for a significant growth in call volume. Work is underway on a bill aimed at protecting Manitoba elections from foreign interference, forged images, and other threats. Premier Wab Kinew says he's concerned about so-called deep fakes, images or videos that are manipulated to make it look like someone has done or said something that they did not. He is also hinting at new rules to prevent people in other countries from interfering with provincial elections. The NDP's plan appears somewhat similar to a bill that is currently before Parliament. That federal bill would update the Canada Elections Act to account for new technology. First check on your weather is coming up, but first, have a look at this video. This is some magical scenes here shot at West Hawk Lake. The lake, as you can see here, the water froze completely clear. Isn't this just something to see? I mean, I'd be kind of scared to skate on that, but certainly looks very, very magical out in the eastern part of our province. Let's get a first check on your weather now with weather specialist Ethan Williams.
Well, thanks, Riley. And starting off our new year here with some cooler temperatures, about seasonal still for Winnipeg and the Red River Valley. But as you go out further west, temperatures dropping below seasonal, -20 in some places. And I'm afraid it's only going to get cooler from here because areas in gray here, including Winnipeg and Brandon and Dauphin, over kind of these next couple of days, we're looking at wind chills overnight dropping down around that -40 mark. And if you go up north, even fiercer wind chills. We have extreme cold warnings in places like Lac Brochet and Dooley Lake, where we'll be feeling closer to -50 at times. Not under extreme cold warnings in the Winnipeg area, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be cold. Still looking at temperatures around -20 by tomorrow morning, and we're not going to really be improving all that much. I think -19 is the best we'll do under a sun-cloud mix, but still feeling closer to -30 with a bit of a breezy wind as we head through the day, Riley. I'll have a full look at your forecast coming up.
All right, thank you so much, Ethan. Well, you want to bundle up if you're heading out. From skiing and snowboarding to skating on the river trail, Manitoba is certainly a winter province, and we know how to winter here. Coming up, we check in on winter recreation. We're back with that story and more news ahead. Stay with us. Welcome back. A St. Andrew's home designated a provincial historic site has burned down. Firth House, which was also known as Hay House, was more than 150 years old. The CBC's Arturo Chang has more.
About 30 firefighters battled this house fire on the shores of the Red River, but couldn't save it from the flames.
Due to the construction of the home and the fire load inside, it was quite a substantial fire. We put a lot of water on it.
The Firth House on the RM of St. Andrews was over 150 years old. The two-story building was once home to Edward Hay, a member of Louis Riel's provincial government and one of Manitoba's first MLAs. The reminder left of its history seems to be this stone, commemorating its first owner, who worked for the Hudson Bay Company. This historian says he can count houses like it with one hand.
It's rare. You know, you don't typically get a lot of houses in Manitoba from the 1860s, and especially ones that are made out of stone, you know, because they were a major undertaking to build.
Manitoba named the home a heritage site in the late 80s, but Goldsboro says the destination doesn't mean much, particularly when they're privately owned, like Firth House.
There are sources of funds that are available if you do want to do some conservation work on older buildings like that one, but it's not mandatory that you do so. And so, it's entirely possible that buildings can be neglected.
The fire's cause is still under investigation. Arturo Chang, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, as we move into January, a variety of winter trails are now open for the season, but some are in need of a little bit of help. Every year, skiers, snowmobilers, and skaters hope the weather will cooperate. And as the CBC's Josh Crabb reports, some people are just thankful this winter isn't a repeat of last.
Ken Shute finally found time for his first cross-country ski of the season. Fortunately for him, trail conditions are favorable, and that's a big relief.
The beginning of last year was pretty slow, but towards the end of the season, we got in some good skiing.
Skiers have been hitting trails across the province earlier this year compared to last winter. Cross Country Ski Association of Manitoba Executive Director Karen McSherry says warm weather hurt some trails over the holiday season, but fresh snow has helped many ski areas rebound.
They're looking fantastic. People are out skiing every day. We're getting lots of trail reports into our website, and it's just been a great winter so far.
Last year, these trails at Windsor Park Nordic Centre didn't open until January 11th. This year, they opened more than a month earlier than that.
The fact that everyone was able to come out over the holidays with their families, and there's just lots of activity here the last, like I say, over the holidays, but it's totally different from last year.
While some groomed snowmobile trails have opened, for others it's still too soon. Snowman Executive Director Yvonne Rideout says ice on some waterways isn't yet safe for grooming machines to travel on. That's not the only problem.
Southeast Snow Riders, they had their trails open, the groomer going down the trail, and passing the groomer are ATVs, pickup trucks, and rutted up all the trail as the groomer was preparing the trail, and they had to close down.
Rideout says their trails are for snowmobilers only who buy passes to travel on them. She says more are open this year compared to last year, and other trails will open soon. At Windsor Park, skiers are glad conditions are holding up.
The weather's been up and down, and with a bit of warm weather, it was ice. But now that we've got a couple of inches of new snow, I think the conditions are going to be good.
And on these trails, more snow is always welcome. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, another place Winnipeggers have been able to enjoy this holiday season has been on the River Trail. The first section opened at the Forks in time for New Year's Day. The CBC's Felicia Adams stopped by.
Hitting the trail, playing hockey, and getting warmed up by the fire. Families took to the outdoors despite the cold weather, showing what it means to be a true Winnipegger.
Does the cold bother you?
Not really.
No?
Just a little bit. Sometimes when I'm walking long distances, then it might bother me a little bit.
Blake Shaw and his stepfather, Derek Schmidt, were out skating Wednesday. It was the first full day of skating on the Forks Port Rink, part of Winnipeg's Nestawaya River Trail.
Just being out here with everybody is wonderful, and enjoying the cold, embracing it, it's wonderful.
Being out, I think we all feel better, right? Like it could be 8 in the morning and going skiing, or 8 o'clock at night and coming skating here, right? Like being outdoors is just, we feel better.
Yegorov Bot is celebrating his birthday, and it's a family tradition to spend it outside no matter the weather.
Sometimes we go skating, sometimes we go skiing, sometimes it's fat bike rental, so it's always something outdoors.
The river trail opening is the highlight of the season for the Bot family.
It's funny because we tell like friends and family who are from Winnipeg, and they're always so amazed that we have this available to us, like the river trail. It's not something that's very common that I think is unique to Winnipeg.
And they aren't alone. Chido and his family eagerly await its opening every year.
The kids are so pumped. This is our third, fourth time on ice.
Coming out on the ice is something they look forward to doing more of this year.
We sort of have a sort of short season, especially on the river here, to skate, right? So, we'd like to take advantage of it.
Doe says if the weather allows it, he and his family are looking forward to more of the skating trail being open this season. Felicia Adams, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, if you're heading out to do any sort of outdoor activities, maybe even just walking to work, you'll want to make sure that you bundle up. As Ethan Williams explains, we're looking at some cold weather ahead.
Well, Riley, most of us in the Red River Valley anyway, and in Winnipeg and southeastern sections, still dealing with some cloud cover today, the occasional flurry or a patch of light snow here and there. We did get some clearing skies, though, out further west and in portions of northern Manitoba, and that clearing going to continue over these next few days. Our weather staying pretty quiet here as we head toward the weekend, the first weekend of 2025, thanks in large part to this large area of high pressure, which is making its way through Saskatchewan and eventually into Manitoba as we start the weekend. You see this storm system off into northwestern Ontario. That's going to start to push that away after that brings some breezy winds for portions of the north. But the other thing this area of high pressure is going to do is it's going to make things very cold. You can see our jet stream dropping pretty far to the south here, some Arctic air being pulled down from the north, and that means temperatures in some parts of especially northern Manitoba probably going to be closer to -30. That's, again, the daytime high. Overnight temperatures probably dropping near -40 for a lot of places. Even as we start getting into the weekend, temperatures still hanging around that -20 mark for daytime highs, so not much improvement there. You factor in a little bit of wind, it's not going to be overly significant thanks to that area of high pressure, but for southern Manitoba, gusting 30, 40 kilometers an hour, probably going to make it feel closer to -40 at times. And keep in mind that storm system in northwestern Ontario going to bring some pretty strong winds to the Hudson Bay coast, and with gusts 60 to 70 kilometers an hour, that'll be feeling well in to the -40s there. We already have extreme cold warnings in places like Lac Brochet and to Dooley Lake. Could be extended eastward from there. Probably a good couple of days to keep the dogs inside or keep the walks brief at least. I know Timber here staring longingly, wondering when Timber can go back outside. I promise. Timber, the warmer days are probably coming in a little while, but until then, still looking at a temperature around -20 for Winnipeg as we head into Friday. And unfortunately, the weekend still on the chilly side. Temperatures back into the -20s. Overnight lows will start to improve as we get into Sunday, but again, feeling closer to -30 at times, although the sunshine comes back thanks to that area of high pressure. I'll have a full look at your 7-day forecast, Riley, coming up in a little bit.
All right, thanks, Ethan. We have to take another short break. When we come back, we have more to come. We'll even check out how some Manitobans rang in 2025. Stay with us. The FBI have an update on the deadly attack in New Orleans that killed 14 people early New Year's Day. They say it appears that he did not have accomplices as first suspected. The CBC's Mike Crawley has the latest.
The FBI now believes the man who drove a truck through a crowd of people celebrating New Year's in New Orleans acted alone. Investigators say their evidence is that no one else was involved in the attack other than Shamsuddin Jabbar, the U.S.-born suspect. They say on New Year's Eve, Jabbar drove his rented Ford F-150 from Houston, where he lived, to New Orleans. It's about a 6-hour drive, and posted videos to social media along the way, including one stating that he had, quote, joined ISIS before this summer. The FBI is now trying to figure out what they call Jabbar's path to radicalization.
What I can tell you right now is that he was 100% inspired by ISIS. And so we're digging through more of the social media, more interviews, working with some of our other partners to ascertain just how, to ascertain a little bit more about that connection.
Investigators have surveillance video showing Jabbar leaving 2 improvised explosive devices in the French Quarter on New Year's Eve. These were inside coolers, and the FBI says some bystanders actually looked inside those coolers, and they would like to hear from those people or from anyone who may have seen Jabbar place them. Officials in New Orleans are trying to reassure people that the city is safe. Bourbon Street, the site of the attack, was reopened to the public on Thursday. Louisiana's governor toured the street just ahead of the Sugar Bowl, the college football game that was due to happen on New Year's Day, but was postponed by 24 hours for security reasons. The authorities have also clarified the death toll, saying that 14 people were killed in the attack, plus Jabbar, who died in a shootout with police. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Washington.
So that's New Orleans. There's much less known, though, about the Las Vegas incident that occurred hours after the attack in New Orleans. Despite speculation, authorities are not linking the explosion of a Tesla truck outside of a Trump hotel to what happened in New Orleans. They also haven't established a motive.
We know we have a bombing, absolutely, and it's a bombing that certainly has factors that raise concern. It's not lost on us that it's in front of, of the Trump building, that it's a Tesla vehicle, but we don't have information at this point that definitively tells us or suggests it was because of this particular ideology or any of the reasoning behind it. That's the purpose of the investigation that we're conducting, is to get to the bottom of exactly what happened, why and how.
Tesla is owned by Elon Musk, a major player in the new incoming Trump administration. Police say they believe the person inside the car shot himself right before the explosion. There's been no definitive identification because of the extent of the damage to the body, but ID found in the car shows him as Matthew Livelsberger, an active duty U.S. Army soldier. Back in this country, we have more details tonight on Canada's first human case of avian flu that was reported last November. The good news is the patient, a 13-year-old girl, is now off of the critical list. What experts call worrisome, though, is what they found about the bird flu virus. Mira Baines reports.
A lot of questions lingering after new details about Canada's first human case of avian flu were revealed in the New England Journal of Medicine. A 13-year-old girl had been in critical condition with a H5N1 strain of avian influenza and is now off oxygen and no longer infectious, according to health officials.
She is still in hospital receiving treatment, but no longer is in the ICU and no longer is requiring supports like oxygen or renal support, kidney support.
The letter to the New England Journal of Medicine says the teen went to a BC emergency room on November 4th with fever and conjunctivitis in her eyes. She has a history of mild asthma and elevated body mass index and was discharged, but then her condition worsened and she developed a cough, vomiting, and diarrhea. She came back to hospital 3 days later in respiratory distress and was later intubated to help her breathe. Chest x-rays show the difference in her lungs over time and respiratory distress syndrome. According to the case details, the infection didn't spread to others in her home or at the hospital. The BC case is leading to bigger questions. What's the potential for avian flu to infect humans, and can we handle it?
we really have to ensure that there's as few mammals as possible infected with this virus so we don't give it opportunities to mutate in a way that it is more readily transmitted between humans. And the way you do that is by quelling outbreaks as quickly as possible. So this virus is in birds, specifically in migratory birds.
So far, BC's commercial poultry sector has been infected by avian flu outbreaks. More than 8.5 million birds affected. Still, the source of the girl's infection is not known. The report says the strain closely matches the strain found in wild birds in BC's Fraser Valley area in October and was not directly related to outbreaks at poultry farms. About 20 doctors who signed off on the case concluded that evidence for changes in the virus that may increase its binding to human airway receptors is worrisome. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
So that was the human case in our country. There was one case in Manitoba identified last month on a poultry farm, and that has producers in our province stepping up monitoring for the illness. Aurora Farms raises several animals, including chickens. They are paying close attention to animal health on their farm and trying their best to reduce risk.
Keeping our coops safe and clean and airy and bright. We're not letting wild birds come through the same area. The birds don't have access to go outside where wild birds are. And these are heritage breeds that are generally better with diseases.
Staff at Assiniboine Park Zoo are also keeping an eye out. Veterinarians are on hand in case of contamination. Albertans driving electric vehicles have a new tax coming down the road. The provincial government says it will help fund highway maintenance. But for those who consider EVs critical in the fight against climate change, it's a transportation policy they say is going the wrong way. The CBC's Alexander Silberman reports.
For Eugene Masakwi, it's about to get more expensive to keep his fully electric car on the road.
It was a bit of a shock knowing I'd have to pay $200 compared to the, I believe, about $90 it is now just for the gas car.
Alberta is about to become the second province to add a tax for EVs, following Saskatchewan in 2021. It argues the extra registration fee is necessary because EV owners don't pay a fuel tax, which is used to fund highway maintenance. It also says electric vehicles are harder on pavement because of their heavy batteries.
I think all Albertans would like to do their part in making sure we can maintain our highway infrastructure.
While the idea is still new to Canada, more than 24 U.S. states already charge extra registration fees to make up for lost gas tax revenue. 6, including Georgia, Iowa, and Kentucky, also collect a tax at charging stations.
It's clearly counterproductive to the times that we're in.
This EV advocate says everyone should pay their fair share, but he argues extra fees could discourage drivers from going electric.
We should be encouraging people and finding ways to facilitate the transition to electric mobility, and this sort of flies in the face of that.
If the tax is going to be used to actually improve infrastructure.
In Edmonton, Masakwi says driving an EV is still well worth it for the planet and his wallet.
I'm looking at the savings I have in gas. I'm able to stomach that, offset it a bit more.
He might not mind, but experts say striking a balance between encouraging electric and paying for infrastructure is a work in progress. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
2 captive orcas in France are expected to be relocated to a whale sanctuary in Nova Scotia. While there's been a global push to stop keeping whales and dolphins in captivity, it's also a challenge to find a suitable facility for animals after they are taken out of marine parks. Brett Ruskin has more from Halifax.
Wiki and Keijo are 2 killer whales or orcas who are living in the south of France at a marine land there. Now, this marine land is only going to be open to visitors for the next couple of days or so before it shuts its doors forever. So the French government has to figure out what to do with these whales. The one option that they looked at initially was to send them to a facility in Japan. That option was rejected. There are 2 more options on the table. One, send them to a similar facility with pens and pools and tanks that they would be living in in Spain, or send them here to Nova Scotia, a facility that hasn't even been built yet, but is being called a whale sanctuary. The Whale Sanctuary project is being described as kind of a retirement home for whales who had been living in captivity, basically an area along the eastern shore of Nova Scotia, about 3 hours drive from Halifax. They would be setting up nets to keep the whales in, but it'd be a huge area. It would be deeper than most pools that whales are kept in, so they could dive deep, a natural environment the size of 50 football fields, or 300 times larger than your average captive whale pool where whales are now held. So good news for whales who end up there. The trouble now is building it. $18 million is expected to be the cost of this facility, for the nets, for the infrastructure, coming from donations. The proponents of this project say the donations will likely ramp up if the French government does decide to send the whales here, which could happen sometime this year. The whales will be loaded into a specialized tank, placed onto a large plane, and then flown here to Nova Scotia to be released into this sanctuary. So we are watching this one very closely to see if it takes off, to see if it gets underway underwater here off the East Coast. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, Britain, of course, is renowned for historic sites, but one is being unearthed near London that predates London itself by 166 million years. Archaeologists have found tracks, dinosaur tracks, that is. The quarry was once a lagoon, and one day 2 dinosaurs walked through the mud. One was 6 meters tall, the other, they say, even larger. How the tracks were preserved isn't clear. Well, from the barricades at Main Street coming down to the redevelopment of Portage Place, Portage Avenue is getting a big facelift in 2025. We'll get more on that coming up after the break. Portage Avenue is getting a facelift this year with a few major projects slated for 2025. From the barricades at Main Street coming down to the redevelopment of the Bay and Portage Place, Gino D'Estasio is an urban development expert. He says all of the projects, Main Street's reopening to pedestrians, may have the biggest impact. He spoke to the CBC's Felicia Adam this morning.
So there are a lot of new developments on Portage Avenue. What are your thoughts on all these different projects coming up this year?
Well, for 2025, I mean, I think Winnipeggers are really going to start to see and feel a different Portage Avenue, starting at Memorial with the redevelopment of the Bay and working all the way down to both the barriers being removed at Portage and Main and the redevelopment of the former Bank of Montreal building into the MMF project that's going to kind of showcase that end of Portage. So for the first time in a long time, development is really focused on Portage Avenue. We haven't seen that for quite some time. Maybe we have to go back to when Portage Place was originally built to see that kind of activity, or for that example, maybe the hockey rink. So it should be an exciting year for Portage.
Do you think these developments, they're going to do enough to sort of revive that street, revive downtown?
The one thing that I've talked about for Portage Avenue is I'd really love to see it become a great, walkable, visitable street. We're not quite there yet, and it's been a long time since Portage Avenue's really been a true walkable street. But in 2025 and onward, I think we're going to start to see those pieces come into play. I'm really intrigued by what will happen when the barriers come down at Portage and Main, and when the first people start to experience just walking across the street, even if it's just out of curiosity, right? Hopefully that then starts to connect Portage to the Forks and Portage back into the heart of downtown, and maybe that creates a little momentum to attract some, storefront, street front retail that's really been missing over the last couple of decades.
Is there more that needs to be done other than these projects?
There's always lots to be done in the downtown, but I think we all have to remember, as a city that's approaching 900,000, we have to ensure that downtown is open for everyone. And I think we just need to find a creative way to make downtown safe, open, inviting for a range of individuals, even those who are struggling to those who are thriving. We have to be a better city. And to be a better city, we have to realize that no city's perfect, no downtown is perfect, so let's not even think that we can get there. But if we start with just some small ideas that we can re-engage retail in the downtown, reignite an interest in coming downtown and spending a day or going for lunch or getting a haircut or doing whatever you do in the downtown that you haven't been doing already. Because we all have to keep in mind that, with the hockey rink, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of concerts, there's a lot of events. The Forks is thriving, the Exchange District has heritage. But if you look at Portage Avenue, it's that last little piece. But it's an important piece because it's the heart of our city. Portage Avenue as a major thoroughfare, as a once great street, can be a really solid street if we just kind of let the last couple of pieces fall into place. And I'm always kind of sad in saying that maybe the closure of Portage Place as a mall might actually make downtown a better place in the long run, by recreating maybe some of the street level activity that was pulled into the mall, taking that out of the play. Maybe we'll see something happen the next couple of years.
Kenya's space agency says a large metal ring found near a village in that country probably comes from a rocket launch vehicle. The 500-kilogram ring crashed to Earth on Monday. Nobody was injured. Now the space agency is trying to determine who the ring belongs to and why it didn't burn up before it fell to Earth like these parts usually do. Well, it's time to get another check on our Manitoba weather forecast. For that, CBC weather specialist Ethan Williams joins us once again.
Well, Riley, it might be a little chilly frigid even, I think is probably the best word for this over these next couple of nights here. But if you're brave enough to go out and you have some heat in the car that you can blast, there is a pretty exciting meteor shower that is happening. This is the Quadrantid meteor shower, the strongest meteor shower that we get in the winter season, peaking Thursday into Friday, but if you don't get a chance to see it then, it's still going to be going until about January 12th. This is just when it is at its strongest, and that means that as many as potentially 120 meteors per hour you'll be able to see. So if you get outside of Winnipeg or the city or wherever you are into some dark areas and look up at the sky, you have a pretty good chance of seeing those. Now, the sky conditions, I think, for some of us will be ideal as we head Thursday night into Friday here, especially out further west. We have that area of high pressure which is moving in, and that means that we're going to be seeing some clearing skies in portions of Westman and the Parkland region. A little further east, we're still hanging on to that cloud cover, especially around the Winnipeg area and through portions closer to the Ontario border, and especially through northwestern Ontario. Kenora and Fort Frances still looking at some cloud cover, but temperatures dropping well into the -20s, especially where that clearing is happening further closer to Saskatchewan, and that could mean some wind chills close to -40 at times. Definitely some -40 wind chills as we head into northern Manitoba, as our overnight lows going to be around or a little bit below the -30 mark, and again with those winds picking up at times, especially closer to the Hudson Bay coast, that is definitely going to feel into the -40s. Quite breezy for Churchill tomorrow. Sunshine, though, for the rest of the north as we get some of those clearing skies moving in. -25 or so, about the best we're going to do in this part of the province. And moving into southern Manitoba, we'll see that we won't get much of an improvement temperature-wise as we go through the day on Friday. Again, out further west, this is where our temperatures are still back into the -20s, feeling into the -30s. For Winnipeg and for eastern sections, again, this is about where we will be. We'll start the day and we'll be throughout much of the day, sitting around that -20 mark. You see, though, that clearing continues to move further eastward through the day. So I think a lot of us are going to have a chance at some sunshine, a little bit of a breeze here and there, making this feel closer to -30 as we head throughout the day. I'll have a full look at your 7-day forecast, Riley, in just a little bit.
All right, thanks so much, Ethan. Well, it is a tradition that has played out New Year's Day on the streets of Winnipeg's Glenwood neighborhood for more than 25 years now. Claude Theriault stages 2 nets on a snow-covered street, turning it into a makeshift rink where family and neighbors face off in a friendly hockey game. There's no hard puck, slightly different rules, and the score falls through the cracks of this friendly match. Have a look.
This all started when we were kids. We used to play a lot of boot hockey. It's family, friends, anybody who wants to show up. I actually sent out, yesterday I sent out approximately 300 texts. We just had little rivals, and we used to do this when we were kids. It was constant. It was our entertainment. You know, there was nothing else to do. We didn't have the same toys they have today and technology they have today. Everybody's sitting behind a computer. We were outside. As soon as we ate supper, boom. If it was winter, we were playing hockey. Okay, clean. There you go.
My girlfriend brought it up, and I really enjoy hockey, so I thought I'd come out, give it a shot, and I come back every year. I play goalie a little bit. I've done it for a couple of years, but this is a nice way to just enjoy the game, have fun.
Well, Carl, he came in, he's with my sister's daughter. So they're in Ireland, but great guy. Nice to meet him. Met him last year, first time, I believe, at my other niece's wedding. So. But he's never played hockey. I think he's going to enjoy it.
My girlfriend from here moved out to Dublin. Met her there. We're together for a couple of years now. Yeah, so I've just kind of heard about this game for the last 3-4 years. So we've visited a few times, but we've always missed it. So yeah, and I want to see what it was all about. Just heard it's good fun. Family show up. Always on the 1st of January. Try to poke around for a little bit, and then I think there's a couple of, a bit of food and stuff going in the house afterwards as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Canada's taking another penalty. It's going to be Luca Pinelli. who will go off. The 8th time Canada's been shorthanded here. And Pinot's got to be careful here.
Let's stay on the hockey theme, maybe a bit of a different caliber, though. It's win or lose for Team Canada at the World Juniors tonight. Team Canada lost 4-1 to the United States on Tuesday. Canada plays the Czech Republic in the quarterfinal match. And head coach Dave Cameron says players need to be much more disciplined.
It's us. We put ourselves in a position we talk all the time. Don't let the referees get involved here. I'm fully comfortably low. We've learned our lesson. And now, like I said, it's game on.
So I mentioned Canada facing the Czech Republic tonight. If Canada loses that game, they are knocked out of the tournament. After the break, we'll step back to New Year's celebrations from the lawns of Charleswood to Assisipi Ski Resort in Westman. We'll have a look at how the new year was brought in here in Manitoba. We're back right after this.
Well, our temperature continuing to drop over these next few days as high pressure moves in, reinforcing that cold air. Also bringing in some sunshine, though, and as that area of high pressure moves away, as we start the beginning of next week and as a lot of people head back to work, temperatures will improve slightly as we get into Monday with a temperature of -17. But then we have another area of high pressure which begins to move in, and that means temperatures will drop back into the -20s with a couple of chilly overnight temperatures before a bit of relief on Thursday with a mix of sun and cloud, although a pretty breezy easterly wind, though, probably going to make that feel closer to -30 at times. So temperatures this time of year should be closer to -13, Riley, but we'll be sitting below seasonal as we begin 2025.
It's a plug in the card night. Thank you, Ethan. Well, it may not have been a classic Manitoba social. Maybe it was. Regardless, though, Manitoba sure knows how to throw a New Year's Eve party. As part of our New Year's Eve special Tuesday night, CBC's Candice Lipsky brought Canadians to the New Year's Eve party at Assisipi, while our Faith Fundal took in the ice here in Winnipeg. The highlights make our daily lift.
I have not yet fallen, and so you know what that means, right? We got to learn the most important thing.
Okay, so how to fall, we're going to do our knees, our toes, and we're going to end up on the ice here.
So Adrian,
yay!
I may not know how to skate, but I now know how to fall, and I'm pretty sure you also do too as well.
I think we had a really good day. We actually got to do some skiing ourselves. You're a real pro, as we.
Oh, shucks.
I'm not so much. You know, I think I'm trying to French fry. Is that what they call it when you go straight?
Less pizza, more French fry.
Less pizza, more French fry. Good life motto.
So my New Year's Eve, not that exciting. It was on the couch with a plate of nachos where I laid all night long. So there you go. That is our program for this Thursday evening. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you on Friday.